Thank you all for being here. I really appreciate it. I'm Micah Jasuda, project manager here, Austin Energy Customer Renewable Solutions. Quick intros, see some new faces. Been at Austin Energy now for 10 years, which is crazy for me. Before that, I was in the private sector in solar as well. So this is my passion. It is something that I care deeply about. So here today to talk about residential solar leasing, work together to form this program offering or whatever you want to call it, with your support, your help. So thank you all for being here. This is going to be a discussion. This is going to be a feedback situation here, not necessarily me telling you, but me asking you questions. And same with online, asking questions. And I'm going to be taking notes. So if we're going to start on the PowerPoint, we'll do a safety moment. I'll tell you a little bit. We had another meeting previously where I went into a little more detail about why we're doing this and why now. So I'll breeze through that relatively quickly. I'll tell you about what our proposed path is, what that means internally for like how we set this up as a project. And then the bulk of this is going to be talking through questions with y'all. So first of all, can everybody hear me online? Just want to make sure you can see the screen and you can hear me okay. Thumbs up to somebody. Okay.
You got a thumbs up.
Did you get a thumbs up?
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. If not, chat us. Let me know if you're not able to hear. Hear some out.
There's 32 people. Okay, good.
Somebody monitoring the people.
I am.
Oh.
There
Okay.
we go.
So let's hit the safety moment. Sleep deprivation. So if y'all don't know, we safety person over here at Austin Energy, we start everything with the safety moment. Sleep deprivation. So did you know sleep deprivation increases the likelihood of a workplace accident by 70%?
Whoa.
Some examples. 3 Mile Island, 1979, attributed to human errors because somebody was working, had done overtime and was working at 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. They were sleep deprived. 1985, there's an operator error at a nuclear station in Ohio. Is this 3 Mile Island? No, that was 3 Mile Island above. Another nuclear power station almost caused a catastrophe as well. 1986, Space Shuttle Challenger, caused partially by poor judgment and human error related to lack of sleep. Exxon Valdez, big oil spill. Also, somebody had been at the wheel awake for 22 hours. Workers are 37% more likely to sustain an injury when working a 12-hour day. And long-term impacts of sleep deprivation. I mean, anybody here who's a parent or has worked ridiculous long shift knows your decision making is tougher. Your emotions are more triggered. There's also physical issues like stomach, digestive problems, all these issues. So just highlighting, get your sleep. It's important. Okay. Solar leasing. What is solar leasing? We're going to breeze through this pretty quickly. This is the idea of a third-party owner who owns the solar on the resident. We're talking residential specifically here. Third-party owner who owns the solar system on the residential rooftop and leases that system to the Austin Energy customer, to the homeowner. We only allow equipment leases here. So in this case, the customers are paying a monthly fee to the system owner, and the customers are getting the value of solar credit so that they can pay the monthly fee to the leasing company. The leasing company owns it, they have to maintain it and operate it, and they left with the tax credit, which thereby decreases the monthly payments to the customer. Then installation companies provide the lease, partner with leasing companies. Why is this a challenge for us? Well, one, leasing opens up new customer protection concerns. It requires additional protection and education so that customers have a good experience. I think leases are novel to a lot of people. There's a lot of stuff to explain that they've never done before. So in some of these complications here, we're going to talk through a bunch of them today. And I want to know your feedback on these complications and how we can best educate customers to have a good experience. And then the other complication is under state law, Austin Energy is the sole provider of energy to our customers in our service area. And so that's something that we have to be very cognizant of and design this around. And so we've never allowed kilowatt hour based leases, PPAs, power purchase agreements in our territory, and we will continue to not allow that. What are they doing? Why is this happening now? Why are we bringing this up and making this a big thing right now? Because the residential solar tax credit expired at the end of last year. If it's a leased system, it's owned by a commercial entity, it's a commercial system, even if it's on a residential rooftop. So it's a way for residential customers to continue getting tax credits. They don't get it themselves. They continue getting the benefits of tax credits even after the residential tax credit expired. So when they're looking at their options, this may be a very attractive option to them. So we expect, because the tax credits can be leveraged, we expect to see a rising demand here. Also, just generally, we want to have a full belt full of things that we can use to help drive solar demand. We have our resource generation plan. We have huge goals about doing solar. We support our local solar industry. All of these things go into, we have a vested interest in propagating solar, increasing solar penetration in our service territory. We want to support, we want to see leasing succeed. We want to see it succeed in a way that provides good customer experience. Okay, so the proposed process, this is what we're ironing this out with legal. Let's close the door if y'all don't mind.
Okay.
Because we have public voters coming through. So this is the process we're kind of zeroing in on. We are creating a interconnection agreement. So we were already working on an interconnection agreement. We have one for 500 kilowatts and up. We need to do this anyways. The interconnection agreement educates customers on the value of solar rate, the solar process, how the meter is installed, when we can energize, permission to operate, all these things that are we don't really get to explain to customers unless they go through the incentive program and go through the education piece that we have. And so it was already a gap. If they don't do it through the incentive program, they don't get these things explained to them. So we're already working on the interconnection agreement, and we're going to roll that out as a part of this. At the end of the interconnection agreement, there will be a line that basically says, if the system owner is not the same as the homeowner, continue to the next page. And that next page will be a leasing disclosure form and attestation. So the disclosure form will be the highest priority customer protection pieces that we want to pull out and make sure we highlight right in front of folks so that they can see it and agree to it. Just get those education pieces right in front of them. And then the attestation will be our protection as Austin Energy to ensure that our legal team is comfortable with moving forward with this. Everyone will have to sign and attest that this lease is not a PPA. It does not constitute sales of electricity to our customers. So we will also show language that we will prohibit. So prohibited language, particularly any sales of kilowatt hours that are in production guarantees that true up monthly. And we'll talk more about that. Let me finish this thought, and I saw a hand up, and we can move to that. But we will also explain recourse. So if we find something not compliant, what do we do? What happens then? So this will all be explained in the attestation, and we're proposing that customers sign that and the leasing providers sign that as well. I'll pause for a second. I think I saw a hand.
Yeah, Kayeba's got a hand up, and then there's a question in the chat. I'll let Kayeba, I guess, speak first.
Yeah, go ahead.
You know, you actually just answered my question. I was just wondering if the leasing company was also going to have to sign that form. I'm glad to hear the answer is yes. Thank you.
Yes. Absolutely. And there's a question in the chat.
Yes, James asked, I thought AE worked out an equipment lease arrangement for Solar City back when they were in business. How is this different?
Not something I've ever heard of. No.
Didn't happen.
Yeah. Didn't happen. Yeah. James, I know is that James Orenstein?
Yes.
Yeah, I know he's always on top of this stuff. Happy to talk after, but I'm not aware of anything there. Okay, continuing on. Customer education. So in parallel with this, we're going to create a new customer education website for solar leasing. This is going to be it's not a negative thing. It's not trying to make leasing as a bad thing. Trying to educate customers about pitfalls, best practices, help them have a smooth and a good customer experience. So we're going to develop a new website, new web page, then we'll have education materials there. And that's what we're talking about. I'm going to want your help in deciding what pieces are most important to include in there and some clarifications about how leases could work in those situations. And then the nice thing about this is there's no change in process beyond just signing a new form. So the form gets updated into the permitting system, and then you proceed with your permits just like you do on any other type of solar installation, residential solar installation today. We are talking about incentives. We would then create, if we do offer an incentive, which we're talking strongly about, then it would also go through the EECP portal, just like you apply for other incentives.
Who owns that? The leasing company?
Who would apply for the incentives?
Uh-huh.
Great question.
Okay,
Great
we'll
question.
come back to that.
Yeah.
All right.
Probably the contractor, because they're being EECP already, but that's a great question. And I don't know the answer to this. Okay, now, what does it take to make this happen at Austin Energy? We are past the legal review of the concept and the structure, gotten buy-in and approval there. We're on our second community stakeholder meeting. We'll have a third, at least a third, depending on what this group determines we want to talk about next. We're working on developing the interconnection agreement, the attestation, and the disclosure form. We'll develop the education material, the parallel, and then we have to integrate this all. So Amanda, the permitting system, I'm sure y'all work with software. It's got to have the logic and the stuff put together. It's got to require the form, and then we have to have a process where somebody looks at it and verifies it. It's all of the things that you do to implement new software. We have to do that. Amanda and ECP and any other potential systems that we need to touch. And then we are shooting for March program launch. I will say, I think this is cautiously optimistic. Could slip into April, just being full disclosure there. But we are doing our best to make this happen. Just think sometimes it's really the integrating it into the permitting system that could take a little longer. But I think that we will definitely have it this spring, and we're working as fast as we can. Okay, so I'm going to jump over to a Word doc, and I'm going to take notes, and we're just going to have a discussion. These are the questions I'm going to ask, and I've got a lot of prompts to show you to kind of stimulate some discussion. Okay. So first question. This is going to be, I think, where we spend the most time. We've looked at leases. We've developed a list of the things that we think our customer, the customers need to know about so that they have a good experience. Would like to go through them with y'all. Talk about one by one in a fairly quick manner, but I don't want to get too hung up. But I want to have a conversation about these pieces. See if I've captured everything, if I've left anything out. So if I divided into kind of two sections, if they do, first of all, there's some overlapping between here, right? So the two sections I've got are contract terms and deceptive sales practices. And there's redundancy there. There's other questions too that I'm going to ask about later that we may answer in this first question, so that's okay. Just want to make sure we cover the basics. So before I really dive in, I saw there's another maybe hand up. And
Stan has got his hand up, yes.
Stan, yes.
Yeah, thanks, Micah. Just a question on it, just digging into the battery control. Are you presuming that there is a some sort of arbitrage program in place, or is that just a general comment about battery control?
Right. There is going to be a demand response program that is launching for batteries, I believe, in the next month or couple months. Somebody else is launching that. I don't want to get the dates wrong, but that's coming soon. So what I'm referring to here is we've seen some terms and some leases that may specify that the leasing provider has control of the batteries. And I think that would be something that we would be concerned about. So wanting to hear from y'all from the ground level, the folks who really work with these leases, are those terms that you see often? What are your thoughts on that? So I'll move that. We can start with battery control. Do y'all see stuff about battery control in the leasing agreements specifying that the leasing provider has some control over the battery or receiving incentives or anything like that?
No, not the ones that I've seen.
I have.
You have?
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
Which one? Do you mind sharing?
Hmm,
You mind? Okay,
yeah,
all right. Stan?
Yeah, I think, I think the issues I've seen around TPOs and batteries is the commercial entity has the right to draw down the battery to a certain level of reserve that may leave the customer stranded in terms of an outage, and that's not very clear, and it potentially be problematic. So they have full control over the battery up to a reserve, which may only guarantee a very small amount of battery power that's available during an outage. And that is a term I've seen in contracts that I think is problematic.
Well, can I ask a stupid question, Stan? Does the power then go back to Austin Energy, or who the hell does it go to? It doesn't go to the leasing company. The financial company.
Yeah, I think that would be just another maybe challenge, just the nature of if there's a program in Austin and there's, where the payments go, most of the third-party owned batteries, programs, that's being captured directly by the leasing company, and then there may be some payment back to the homeowner built into the terms. But I think that is a good question of how that exchange of dollars would actually happen.
yeah. So basically what we're saying is if a customer is leasing a battery and participating in our program, they need to have control of that battery. If a third party has control of the battery and the customer signed their, ability to allow the utility to control the battery away, then they're not going to be able to participate in the program. And with our program, we basically pay the customer for every event that they participate in. So, we'll look at that. We'll call a certain amount of events over a year, and we'll look at their percentage of participation in those events, and they'll get paid according to the amount of energy they were able to participate in the event at. So, basically all that to say that I have seen a lease where it says, that the third party system owner has the ability to control those batteries and participate in the programs, and the customer does not. So that's just something that we want customers to be aware of.
Good Lord.
Okay, Stan, which lender is that you've seen that?
It wasn't a lender, it was a VPP program. So kind of
Was it a VP program that was required in the lease agreement they participated in?
It was a VPP offer, I would say, so not strictly a general service lease, but it's under a lease agreement.
Just generally, we can't allow any kind of interaction with the ERCOT market. So in any VPPs would need to go through us. So that's why we're rolling out this DR program. We would allow third-party control of the battery through our demand response program, through the vendor that we have a contract with. Outside of that, I think we're proposing, Tim, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we're proposing to not allow the leasing providers to control the batteries.
Yeah, they can't participate in like ADER or something like that. They can't have a market benefit.
Is there any objection or challenge, any challenges that are seen because of that by anybody here? So we'll solve the DR program, they can enroll, the customer can benefit from it, but it would not be a part of the leasing agreement.
And that program, by the way, has considerations for resiliency. And also the customer has the ability to opt out of any event.
Can I make sure I'm clear? Because I got a leaky brain pan. If I want to lease a system that includes a battery, I can do that. I just can't benefit financially from selling it back to someone.
You can, as the customer, through our demand response program, the leasing provider cannot.
Okay. Got it.
And that's because AE is the power company, is a trusted player in the equation, whereas a lessor might not have the best interest of the resident in mind, right?
There's even more policy reason behind that, and I don't want to get things wrong. but
Yeah.
If you're beginning ERCOT market benefits, and you're using our distribution grid as the line to go from Austin to the ERCOT market, then you have to pay a tariff to use that distribution equipment, and that would kill all of it. So.
But I could
it has to
still,
go through us.
I could still have access to a system plus a battery.
Yes. And you get a roll in our RTR program.
Well, or not,
Yeah, we're not.
but I can still have a battery financed by the financing company, right?
Yes.
It's just not gonna be connected to your process.
Right.
And therefore, I might not be able to get any kind of money back on what I've invested into the battery.
Actually not.
Okay, got it.
Roll in our RTR program.
Thank you.
I think from an education of the average person out there, though, it's gonna be more about trust and no fraud and all that versus policy, right? And then maybe policy is also part of it, but isn't that the concern here, is that people get fast talked and scammed,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
So
sure.
you guys hopefully eliminate that concern because you're the power company and trustworthy, I suppose.
We educate the customer about it.
Yeah.
We're not going to be a party in the agreement between the lessor and the lessee. So we just need to educate
Yeah.
the
What they can and
lessee
can't do,
on
what to
what
take-
they
what-
need to look out for.
And I go back to you're trusted in that
Yes,
education. So I
hopefully.
think people trust that versus somebody that's taking advantage of this program and out trying to, hustle
Right, and
deals.
it's also important
Which is
for,
okay, but
it's also important for the leasing companies to understand that we're not going to let them aggregate their batteries and participate in our programs. Our programs are customer facing, not third party owned facing.
I know there's some other hands up.
Okay, you've got Stan and Al have their hands up.
Let's do this one.
I think Stan has had a hand up for a little bit and Al's had a question in the
Should
chat.
tell
I think he
you
wants to
one
ask
or
you.
two. Okay, start with Stan.
Yeah, I'll try. I think I've not been able to lower my hand, so, but I did have. Yeah, just on the battery, it might be helpful to also be very clear about how the metering is going to work. I think one of the things I've seen out in the market is that when you have solar that's customer owned, let's say, and battery that's leased, the metering of that gets kind of impossible and problematic. So, maybe another visual or another didactic around, how the value of solar works with batteries and who's getting that value. Like, keep it super simple at the level of the metering. And that's oftentimes where customers, they start to understand the meter is the bill. And then there's a separate bill to the leasing company that has, is not tied to their revenue meter. But make sure your metering, the metering is very clear how we speak about it, and that may help them understand that.
Yeah, let's get to the next question. Who's next?
Al?
Oh,
Come on,
okay.
mute.
Can you hear me? I
Yes, sir.
think that the battery is going to become progressively more and more important because it's the only way you can kind of get resiliency for your house out of having solar. So
Right.
it's going to become really mainstream. I guess my question, I don't understand, if I lease a solar system and a battery under this condition, can my battery still participate in an AE-sponsored demand response program?
Yes. Yes, it
Okay.
can. That's a great question. The prohibition is not allowing that virtual power plant or aggregation of batteries through the leasing providers. We can aggregate them. We are rolling out a program shortly to do that.
Right. So you're not prohibiting that from
Oh,
being part
right.
of your program. Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay. I do want to move on to we got a lot to cover, but I'm seeing more hands up, so let's take a second to clear the hands and then we'll move on. Who's next? Is there another hand?
I don't see any
Or
other
is it
hands.
just stand?
It's just stand.
Yeah, okay. All right, let's take.
Dan, you're making me feel better all the time. I can't ever get my hand in either.
So this is a equipment lease, meaning it's not a PPA, it's not per kilowatt hour rate. Our payment escalators on a month-to-month, monthly payment, is it common or is it a piece of general leasing contracts that those escalate over time? No?
I've seen it.
I would
I've
say
reviewed a
no.
lot of leases.
Which company y'all with?
I'm in financing at Green Tech
Green
Renewables.
Tech Renewables?
Yeah.
Cool. Sounds like we need to look at your lease. It sounds like it's, yeah, okay. Okay, you've seen it? You've seen it, Tim?
Mhm. Something to look out for customers for sure.
So I have the Solar Energy Industry Association's lease template here. And on the front page, the purpose of the front page is all these consumer protections, and one of the line items is annual increase percentage.
I could look at so many of them, like, but.
Is it a PPA style or is it?
I haven't read all 20 pages. I've just read the first 3 pages. I don't know.
Okay. So maybe it's out there. Yeah, I see Kyra raised her hand. Go ahead, Kyra.
Yeah, thanks. Just in terms of the payment escalators, I think it would be helpful for that to be put in dollars for the customer. Unfortunately, our education system doesn't bring us all to the point that we might hope, I think, in terms of understanding percentages and such. So, helping people understand that, like, you'll be paying, in year 1 through whatever you pay this much a month and so on, as opposed to, and year whatever it escalates by 5%, So I don't know what you all had in mind in terms of a template for this, but that would be my feedback, just to make it the most useful to the consumer.
I think you nailed it. Like in the disclosure form, have maybe, proposing here to like write out what is my payment, or I don't know if that's appropriate to ask, but what is my escalator? What percentage is this escalating? At least something that's clear for folks.
It ranges from either 0% or up to 3%. And most salespeople will sell 3% escalator, and that means that it increases, their monthly payment increases by 3% every single year until the, term of the lease or the PPA.
Got it.
Yeah, and I guess what I'm saying is I think that's challenging for a lot of people to really understand. And I'm not saying that, you shouldn't find a way to understand it before you sign, but I think if we're doing something, it would be helpful to say, yeah, in year whatever, it'll be X dollars per month.
Lots of hands up, probably. Start from the front, yeah.
I mean, why would we allow escalators in this?
Because we're not gonna be reaching in, reading out all of these and policing them.
I'm
We just
saying,
can't.
well, but we've got some governance here, I'm guessing, but my point is, I'm trying to think about why a leasing company would need to have an escalator. In my past life, utilities, solar business, right? Lots of things can happen over 30 years, and there's reasons to build escalators into a 30-year deal with a landowner. But in this case, what would the justification be for the leasing company to have an e-escalator?
Because they can't.
Yeah, I think the pragmatic answer is
Because of what?
They can't.
Because they can, but not if this prevents it. I mean, it doesn't seem to make sense. There's nothing that's going to affect their annual cost that unless I'm missing something, that would encourage them or require them to have pay more in year 2, 3. I don't get it. Why not allow it?
Well, we're not going to be reading.
They're not going to be
contracts.
negotiating these contracts.
Yeah.
All they're
Yes.
doing is saying to the customer,
Yeah,
beware.
right.
Yeah.
And
So
you
you
can also
could,
advise that, again, customers
We
are
cannot-
going to advise from y'all that unless it makes total sense to you,
Don't do it. I
Yeah,
know,
I
that's
just-
crazy. But a lot of people, that might be the only way they get solar. And so they're willing to accept whatever the lender's gonna offer.
well, if that's a different thing than an escalator, I think. That's a payment term because make my year one cheap and then ramp me up and have a fixed schedule up front. That's different than an escalator, right? So I think fundamentally.
So-
No, I don't think so.
Well, maybe, anyway.
It's not.
This is a great conversation.
One way you can be transparent about that is include the total cost of the term, right?
Yes.
So as the as you go through the length of the term, there's an escalator, right? I think somebody mentioned challenging to calculate that year over year, include the total cost of the contract.
Like a total sum of each year.
Correct.
Concern.
Right.
I'd go even further and just say your payment in year 10 is going to be this. That's if you're trying to keep the grubby guys out, the 4% escalator, whatever. Year 10 on a 4% escalator looks really bad.
This, yeah.
Year 25, you're 2.5, 3x.
Or maybe a combination of both.
But someone understands 200 a month versus 300 a month
Right.
versus 200 plus a 3% escalator.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but the lease payment should be tied to a system value. Is that correct? Similar to like when you lease a car.
Yes.
There's a sticker price on that car that you're paying. And your lease term ties to that. Could we have a similar type of transparency for the customer? This is the system value. This is your lease payment based on this system value.
I think
Right?
that's where some of the escalators come from, is as cost utilities rise, the value of the system also increases.
That value should accrue to the person who's.
It's locked in, yeah, it's locked in day one.
Should accrue that,
Hedge your interest.
that should accrue to the resident.
Sure.
Because the money's already been made in the leasing company, I would think. They structure it to make their money, right?
I have a couple of questions. I know that, look, go ahead with other
Yeah,
people's
I
hands,
see
but
some hands up online.
You've got Lee with his hand up online.
Lee, you said?
Lee, correct?
Go ahead, Lee.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I've actually done leases with escalators before, and in a lot of cases, it actually can save the customer a lot of money up front, because you take an average monthly payment from $200 a month down to 125 to 150 with the 4% escalator over time or a 3% escalator. So it depends on what the customer's immediate goals are versus their long-term goals. So as
So
long
Lee,
as
to handle your comment, how would you recommend? I'm not gonna argue for or against escalators,
Oh, okay.
but how
Yeah.
would you recommend? If you want to, if you're gonna do that, how would we disclose that and make that transparent to the customers?
I like the idea of the calculation over the period of the agreement.
Thank you. Yeah, and I didn't mean to cut you off. I don't want to
No
get into it necessarily. Just
I'm
want
gonna have to question
yeah,
that.
how can we disclose this to the customers?
Fair enough.
Anybody else have their hand up?
No, I think that's it.
So my question is, I'm a consumer, I sign a contract for a leased system that expires in 5 years. And in 5 years, the first term was X, total amount of dollars equaling X. At the end of that 5 years, I have an opportunity to purchase it or renegotiate the lease. Is that correct? Or say, come get it? Can you come get it? Okay. If I want to renegotiate the lease, is it typical that the new leasing agreements hop way up in terms of payment? Increase radically? I mean, what is typical of leasing companies? Do they come back and try to renegotiate? Try to come back and renegotiate a rate similar to the first term? Or is there kind of a standard what happens in the industry? Do you know?
I'd say 90% are sold at 25-year leases.
Okay,
So
good.
we haven't come across
Got it.
them renegotiating.
Thank
that.
you. Thank you.
Is there an early buyout opportunity in these?
At the end of 5 years, yes.
That's where I got that.
Yeah.
But that,
And the, Well, and you have to buy, like, generally, unless disclosed, you buy it for fair market value, and you don't know that value
Okay.
until.
Look. Look at my lips.
Micah, just another, another point on,
I'm trying to ask a question.
No, I think Kaya is actually,
oh, sorry.
Stan might be.
Yeah. Just another point on escalators, maybe to buyer beware, is if there's any hidden triggers that would invoke an escalator that's not scheduled. And I haven't seen anything bad, but I think I think I recall something in not a lease that we're looking at now, but some earlier leases. So there are, homeowner responsibilities, and if something happens, if they don't do something, whether it's a late payment or otherwise, there may be not just fees, but escalators. So just think of hidden triggers for change in payments, maybe as a general term.
Is that something that folks have seen? Are there triggers? Kind of escalators, penalty?
the answer is no over here.
I haven't seen it. From what I've seen, it's been locked in from the beginning. But it's not
That's the
very.
nature of it being hidden, though, of course.
Right, obviously, yeah, obviously.
I have a whole section on like hidden fees, so that's definitely something we want to learn about. Tax credit clarity, I think this is not something we need to discuss. Just, we are going to be clear about the tax credit, does not go to the customer anymore. It's being taken by the leasing provider. So we just want to, don't want customers to go down the wrong path and they're going to file this on their taxes. Ownership changes. Let's finish with early buyout and flesh that out, and then we'll come back to the ownership changes. We're down to 20 minutes, so I'm trying to get through as much as we can. So there's generally a opportunity to buy out in 5 years, at the end of 5 years, at fair market value. Is there anything else about? It seems like this would be a good, maybe a great option for customers. Like they have 5 years to buy it out. What do we need to know about this to educate customers? What do customers need to know? What, you mentioned fair market value? Yeah.
Monthly payment amount. I got notes for,
Is there a fee to buy out early?
There might be a fee if they're trying to get out of it prior to year 5, because the
Okay.
lease, the lending company hasn't gotten all the tax benefits by that point.
Right.
So there probably is. So yeah, disclosing that would be helpful.
And that's put that in the penalty category, right? Because of the
Yeah.
consumer has an issue. So
Right.
there's no bad behavior there, just.
Yeah. Okay, that's something, it seems like that if some customers are gonna wanna go the whole 25 years, but some are gonna wanna find a path to ownership as fast as they can. And I could see a lot of people being interested in this. So that's why I was trying to learn about it.
So Micah, I think, who will maintain the system if I buy it out?
Yeah, great question. Yeah. Does the maintenance then go to you as a system owner? No?
It does.
Yeah,
You're fully responsible at that point.
which I think is fair. Makes sense to me. Okay, and the fair market value, do y'all have any insight on how that's determined? Is it appreciated values? Is it fair market value?
Does it take into consideration what the customers paid, the investment tax credits that were received? Any of that stuff?
I don't have clarity on that.
No problem. No, put a lot-
Who determines it? We know that.
The lending company does.
right, so just change it in numbers.
That could definitely be
Selling it
confusing
back
for
to
a consumer.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna come back.
But do we want to make a few things that could fall under there? Like depreciation of the system? Help me here. What are some other things that the consumer might want to ask the lending company when they're talking about, buying out in 5 years? Anything else?
Well,
Payments made.
Payments made?
what's the value of the system over the rest of the life of it? So over the next 20 years, how much money is this thing gonna generate for me? That's the value of the system.
Well,
Possible to know.
value is in the eye of the beholder. And if the leasing company doesn't feel like they really want to get rid of that asset, they're the ones that, sounds like, put the price tag on it. So, it's probably a negotiation, if I had to guess, that the contract, or that the customer that wants to buy it out, is wanting to buy it. It's like you're turning your leased car in and you want to buy it. Like, the car dealership is going to sell it to you for whatever you're willing to pay for it, if they want to sell it at that price. The highest, they're going to try to get their most money out of it. I don't think that's any different here. It doesn't sound like it's any different. It's not like there's some government agency that's saying this is the fair market value.
I think, Tim,
Yeah, go ahead.
I think, Tim, that it's not quite as Wild West. I think, to Rachel's point, there's equity that has to be resolved, and there, I've seen schedules for a fair market. I think it does depend on market conditions, but I think it can be fairly transparent. It's just very wonky.
Great.
But in year 5, it's gonna be a big number. Like, if a consumer thinks by year 5, they've paid off 60% of the system, they're gonna have a real shock. And so the price is gonna be the forward hedge of the residual 20 years from the finance company and the interest they're planning to make.
Right.
So it's gonna be 70, 80% of the system cost, more than that.
Even though they already got 30% already off from somebody else.
That's their dealer fee.
30 plus maybe, so we
Right.
could argue the opposite, I think, that
Good lease.
This is great. I'm gonna keep us moving on to ownership change. So these are kind of clear cut and dry questions. What happens when a homeowner sells the house? How's that handled?
Should be able to sell it or
Sorry?
What happens when a homeowner sells the house? How's that handled?
The new owner will have to apply. They have to get approved under their own FICO score, and then there's like a small fee. It's only like a couple $100 maybe, and then the lease just changes to the new homeowner.
Like midterm or with a new term?
Midterm. Yeah, generally.
What I've heard is challenges to this, and I'm curious, Rachel, if these contracts have any say, like, how long does it take them to make that decision? Because I've heard that leasing companies can delay, like, making the decision to give it to the new homeowner, and that delays the sale of the house, and that can close the hole. So is there some kind of languaging in there about how long they can delay making that decision?
It probably, if there is, it, differs between each lender.
Right.
But I haven't heard that anybody's like specifically drug their feet just to be spiteful. I think it's more of like maybe just crossing their T's and dotting their I's, like with legal. So, the more more heads up that the lease company has, like the better, right?
so if I lease a system, I sell my house in 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
The new homeowner doesn't want it. Am I still responsible for the lease even though I've moved? Or can I just say, come get it?
You can say, come get it.
Okay.
You pay a fee?
but that's gonna come with a cost, right? Price significant.
There's gonna be penalties for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, knowing what that is I would definitely put that in here.
Is it typical that a lease provider puts a lien on the house?
They will put a UCC on the equipment only. So it will show up when somebody pulls like a lien search, but it's only on the equipment.
Okay.
Okay, so it's a lien on the equipment. Okay.
Lien on the equipment only.
Can it be rolled into a mortgage at that point from the new buyer to make their life easier and not have to worry about
Sure.
FICO score and all that? If the mortgage lender says, yeah, we'll put another 20K here for the, solar array, does that simplify things for everybody? I don't know if that's-
They could only do that if it's after that 5-year term. Then they could absolutely.
After the tax.
You can roll it into your mortgage because you're buying it out, is that why?
If it's after, yes, if it's after that 5 years.
That's why they have a house appraisers.
And it wouldn't be a lease at that point anymore, it'd be the new owner, okay.
Correct.
Oh, yeah, I was thinking about lease transfer.
Okay.
Lease transfer.
What about,
I think that goes back to the.
what about if the leasing provider goes out of business? Well, before I even ask that, I bought a house with the lending company and like 2 weeks later they sold it to Chase or whatever. Is that something that happens in the solar leasing? Okay.
Yeah, asset-backed securities.
Is that changed? What does that mean for the customer? Is it the portal they pay changes and that's kind of it? Is there more to it?
That's a really good question. I can look into it and get back to you.
That's awesome. I appreciate that. Sure. What if the leasing provider goes out of business? Would they just, in that process of bankruptcy, would they sell the leases to another leasing provider? Hopefully that's not something, I would assume that's what happens. Like if the original leasing provider goes out of business, they're probably liquidating, they're selling their
Assets to someone.
Yeah.
Someone else is gonna buy it and take over the lease.
These leases will be sold within 18 months of being signed. They'll be packaged and sold.
That's interesting. Mark, are you gonna go?
Yep, just to clarify this, the leasing company is an originator of the lease. So sort of like somebody originates your mortgage, but that's not going to be the person that funds it. It's going to be a pool of leases that are owned by investors. And so if the leasing company were out of business, the ownership of the lease doesn't change.
Okay.
So just think of, there's a separation, to just simplify just a little bit, there's a separation between the origination function and the investment function into these leases. The investors provide. Pardon?
The relationship with the customer is not with the originator, it's with the company that ends up buying that lease.
Right.
I think that's a good thing to flag for customers. You're probably not gonna be working with the same company you're working with today.
Can you admit?
I think most homeowners are relatively familiar with that process.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're right.
You know, having their mortgage bought out and getting moved and getting moved and getting moved. It's just.
Okay. Helpful. All right, we talked early buyout, we talked fair market value. Let's hit.
I just want to make sure I totally understood that last piece. So the loan, the mortgage, the loan can get sold, but does the agreement remain with the same company that it was originally signed with, or that does get passed on?
The original agreement would contemplate the lease being placed into a pool of leases and owned by somebody else. So like nothing would change there. It's sort of baked in from the beginning.
I guess I'm wondering, is it clear who the customer calls in that situation for, say, service on the system?
Yep. Well, whatever it is, it's gonna stay the same.
Okay.
But is that when they make the deal, or is that not known until 18 months in and when it's sold?
Well, typically, there's different models, but typically it would still be the originator. So, if it, like where you could get into, challenges is as, the kind of prompted by this question, like the originator goes out of business. So then who's doing the servicing of just literally like the payment side of it? And then also to your point, like who's doing the O&M kind of servicing of the system like that, from what I've seen, typically takes a few months to work out in a bankruptcy, which there have of the originator. So imagine you're the investor and suddenly the payment stops coming. You want to get somebody pretty quickly capable of keeping those payments coming and then sorting out the O&M, but that can be a bump in the road for sure.
If you're seeing frustrated body language, it's because there's cutting out in here, and I think it's the IT system in here. It's not anybody's call doing it. So sorry for that. But I think I've captured. I think I get what you're saying. Generally, the originator is going to change hands pretty quickly. They're going to kind of have a relationship with the servicer pretty quickly right off the bat. It's going to stay consistent.
Yep. Yeah.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
It's kind of, but I think we're picking up, I think, what you're putting down.
A lot of the leasing companies that I've seen will use like Omnidian for servicing, so O&M work.
Got it. And do they provide maintenance as well? Or how does that work?
Yeah, maintenance, warranty issues, out like remote monitoring, that sort of thing.
Okay.
You have a comment from, and if I mispronounce this, I apologize, Tuan? It's regarding the issue with leasers and liens specifically. If the leaser can throw a lien on the underlying real estate if they are not paid, and then she restated the clarification, the solar leaser can throw a lien on underlying real estate if they are not paid, but out after the real estate owner mortgage lender changes. Can anybody speak to that?
So what we heard earlier was that the lien is only on the equipment, not on the home. Juan, are you saying that's not always the case, or are you asking the question there?
No, it's not a question. Can you hear me?
I don't know if you can hear us, Juan, but you're welcome to come off mute. Otherwise, we can continue with talking after this. Okay. All right. Seeing comments coming in. Can barely hear you, Juan. Oh, Juan was talking. We just didn't hear you at all. Sorry, Juan. Put it in the comments, man. I'm sorry.
It's a statement, not a question. She just posted that. Sorry.
Okay. All right. I want to hit performance guarantees before we're out of time, and I'm going to propose something. Okay, we have a number to get through. We could either try and do another one of these meetings in short order, and that's going to depend upon y'all's availability, what kind of, what tolerance you have for coming in and talking with us again, or we could send out a survey. The thing I really want to ask is, what are the top 5 to 10 issues out of all of these, and including the ones we haven't talked about yet? What are the top issues that we want to, in your view, that are the most important for us to focus on? So let's,
Specifically with
would y'all
consumer
be-
education.
Yeah, for education. Yeah.
I personally prefer that we have a dialogue with each other, just
Yeah.
because it helps me understand things, which then helps me ask questions. So if it's just a survey, then I don't know what the hell your answers are, but these folks do. So it helps me understand. If people don't mind, even if we just do a Zoom or whatever.
Right, and you're always welcome to be online. I know we're having these technical issues, but I'll bring that up with IT. Taking the pulse of everybody here. If we schedule another one of these, I don't know if we could pull it off next week, but the week after, early in the, less than 2 weeks from now, would folks be able to, make that happen? Would you be okay with that, or are you getting fatigued by all of this? Okay.
I'm into it.
Yes.
I'm into it.
Okay.
Amen to it. Yep.
Okay. All right, then we will schedule another meeting, but before we go today, I want to talk about performance guarantees. I'm going to hit performance guarantees, and then I'll stay after and answer any last questions, but I want to let people who are here go, because traffic is not going to be fun. So performance guarantees. We are going to, to protect us and being the only company that can sell energy to our customers, right? We're going to line out what is prohibited. And that's what I have here is what we're planning on saying here. Payments must be strictly for the equipment. Performance guarantees are not prohibited. However, in a performance guarantee, you cannot true up monthly or more often than that. Would that meet your general, would folks be okay with that as a performance guarantee clause in these contracts?
So what are some other options if we don't do dollars to kilowatts?
You can do dollars. Well, We are not saying that you can't do dollars to kilowatt hours.
You're just saying you can't do it monthly.
That's right.
Okay, if I'm a customer and I expect my return on my investment as a lessee, I'm gonna wanna have some kind of monthly true up. So if we can't do
I
that,
don't know, I have some kind of true up. It doesn't have to be monthly though, does it?
I don't know. I don't know what the customer would want, but I would think that the customer might want it monthly.
I haven't seen many leases that even offer a monthly true up.
Okay,
We can't allow them. Legal has.
Yeah, that would be too close to a power purchase agreement.
that's what I'm saying. I'm saying if the customer would prefer that, right?
We cannot allow it.
I understand, as long as it's dollars to kilowatts,
Kilowatt hours. Right.
kilowatt hours. Is there any other way to say that without it being dollars to kilowatt hours? I don't know. Maybe there is. Maybe there's a way to do it by, I don't know,
Uptime,
Yeah.
This is the uptime conversation, right?
right. I mean,
something,
there's other ways, but like.
so that
I'll
doesn't
say
smell like a
this,
PPA.
I think before we were running into a lot of consternation and barriers because we were saying no true ups based on kilowatt hours.
Right,
And now we're refining that statement to say
no monthly.
no monthly true ups based on kilowatt hours.
I got that, and I think that's great that y'all have come to that. I really do, but my question is, if I'm a customer,
Yeah. I
would
hear
I
you.
want some kind of true up monthly? I mean, I know I
I
can't,
don't even know if that's offered by, like, I don't think
Yeah.
that's very typical with leases.
it's not,
No,
okay.
like it's primarily in the PPAs because you're buying the power, but I don't recall it in leases because you're
What is
just like renting the equipment.
I
And
see,
it's
I
like
see, I
whatever
see.
it generates and like there's no necessarily true up.
I got it.
But
And then when they do, it's on an annual basis. They say, okay, we're gonna give you a production.
Okay, so we've
guarantee.
come miles with that problem.
So
Yeah,
as long as equipment leases, is there no production guarantee, or how are this handled? It seemed like, it creates all of these like circular issues if you don't have a production guarantee of some kind, right? Because then customers paying and they might be paying for nothing if the system's not being maintained properly. If it goes down for whatever reason. So there seems like there'd be something for customer protection in there. Some production guarantee, or some guarantee of uptime or something. Is that not something that that is generally included for equipment leases?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah,
I've seen it in many.
have you seen some language?
Yeah.
Where it's like not monthly?
Typically, I mean, it'd be really hard to have set an expectation with the customer of what the monthly production should be because it varies to the weather,
Sure,
so
sure.
a lot of times, at least from what I've seen, you'll see an annual true up. That says, okay, your expected annual production is X. If you produce less than that, then we'll true up on a dollar per kilowatt hour basis annually.
Right, and you can do that annually.
That's not monthly.
I understand, I got it. I'm slow.
Well, we have to be careful how we say things.
Yeah, okay.
It's not, we're not.
I got it.
Yeah, we're not trying to be obtuse.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are at 401.
Can you do me a favor? Can you be sure that that's something that a customer would be happy with?
There are people with their hands up online and I want to answer all your questions.
I have a lot
I will
of
be
homework.
here to answer your questions, but I want to give folks who are here the option to take off if you need to. Yeah, go ahead.
I have to chat.
Go ahead, Graham, and then I'll hit the ones on the call.
Yeah, two good questions. As Austin Energy regulates the solar contractors, is there a plan to regulate leasing providers in this? There's only going to be a handful of them. But if there's certain key clauses that you want maintained and customers protected, that's a way to stop the hidden 5% escalator from sneaking in for the lower your lease rate now, but pay 4x in 20 years. That was question one. Question two is, with the incentive dollars aligned for this, how does that impact potentially the solar standard off on the commercial side? Is that taking potential dollars from that? How is that plan to interact?
I'll answer that. So typically, we keep our program budgets separate. We have a residential program budget, and we have a commercial program budget. Now, that said, they're somewhat fluid in that if we have extreme residential participation and commercial slowing, then we can move money from one to the other. But when we present this to council, and council approves it, it's basically, we have a residential budget and a commercial budget. So I don't think there's gonna be like cannibalization, from that standpoint. And what was your first question?
Any plans to regulate or allow?
Right. So what Austin Energy does not plan to do is to review all these leases. They can change, they can do things, and it's going to be incumbent upon the customer to, protect themselves, and we're going to educate the customer. But similar to, there's a lot of things in solar financing that can be bad for the customer too. But we're not getting into the business of getting in between, an agreement between two other parties that we're not directly involved in. So that's our legal position, like our legal has put us in, said that's the position we need to take.
Generally, we try to really avoid saying whether you can or cannot do business in the city of Austin. Now, we can do some things through the incentive program. You can or cannot receive the incentive if you go with these companies. That's something we're talking about.
I guess that was my point. Is as a solar contractor, we're regulated in what we can and can't do, what we can and can't say. If the city or public money's going to these guys or to lower the lease rate, there should be something to stop the predatory aspect.
Yeah, and if a customer comes to us and says, hey, you said you guys don't want to see a monthly true up on kilowatt hours, but this lease has it, then, and this is something we were going to try to talk about in this meeting, but we didn't get to it. Like, what do we do then? We could keep them from being able to sign an interconnection agreement and being able to interconnect, or we don't even know what, so we've got to figure that out. But we have to strike the proper balance where Austin Energy is not getting involved and creating liability for ourselves.
Makes sense.
Okay, so I think I might be confused. Are we saying that, if I lease a system, I still qualify for $2,500? Do they?
We might be saying that, that's a question that's on the table. Are we incentivizing these?
I see, because as a homeowner, I don't own the system. How do you handle that rebate?
It goes to the homeowner.
Goes to the homeowner.
The
Okay.
homeowner is the purchaser, and we want to influence
Okay,
the
got it.
adoption
All right,
of
all right.
the
I didn't know,
system.
I just didn't know that you were planning
Yeah.
on that going to the
No, absolutely
leasing
not.
company because
That's
they
the one
actually
thing
still
we
owns the
will
system.
not do.
I got it. Thank you.
The payment goes to the homeowner.
On here, we just didn't get to it.
Yeah. And there are
Sorry.
reasons why
No,
we
no.
would want to
It's a great question.
incentivize
I got
too.
it. I just.
There are folks, on the call with their hands up. Can I see those?
Taib is the first right now.
Who is?
Taiba.
Yeah.
Please go ahead.
Thank you. Thanks. So I guess just wanted to get a little bit of clarification on the intention. We've been talking about a lot of different kind of factors, and I think what we're talking about is some sort of standardized one pager. Maybe it's two based on how much there is, but something short and digestible in like understandable terms that Austin Energy will put out, and the company will fill in their appropriate details for the different, blanks, but it'll be standardized in some way. Is that what we're talking about? I just wanted to, first of all, clarify that, and then I had another piece of feedback.
That is what we're talking about, yes. It would go on the back page of the interconnection agreement in we're calling it disclosure form. So, yeah, it would pull out the contract terms that have blanks that can be filled in, or just important things that we want to highlight and get in front of them to initial off on.
Okay, great. Well, then in that case, I think my view is that, transparency in that kind of standardized way will do a lot for the consumer. I personally wouldn't sign a lease that didn't have some sort of performance guarantee. And I think like an annual true up is, not unreasonable. But having that guarantee, I guess is whatever a selling point, right? But I think what is key is having it just clearly enumerated on the front end, like this is your guarantee. And I think it'll be helpful to have information on that page also. I think you had something maybe about the value of solar, so that the customer can see like the value of solar is currently X and I'm being told that I will get Y per kilowatt hour that isn't produced, just like I think those things should be close together so that it's really easy to understand if there's a delta.
I agree, yeah. And that's kind of where I'm going with the asking for like the top priorities, and it sounds like that would be one of them. Definitely one we want to pull out.
Yeah, I
There
think the
was-
guarantee and the pricing by year are really essential to just have very, very clear communication.
And yes, value of solar as well is something we'll have like all of it, like in the interconnection agreement, in the leasing disclosure, and in the education, where you really want to nail on the value of solar stuff. Okay.
There was another hand up, but I think they put it down. I don't see them anymore. Their hand up, so.
All right, well, we went 10 minutes over, and I appreciate y'all being willing to do that. Thank you for bringing your expertise, your passion into this. It means a lot. To be successful, and we're a huge part of that. So, we can do research for we have an organization called eSource that has a bunch of utility members that we're polling to see how they're handling it. But my big ask as you go, we're gonna schedule another one of these, but my ask from y'all between now and then is if there are disclosure forms and leasing education resources that you like, would you please send them over so that we can take a look and be inspired by them? That would be very helpful. We'll send that out as a follow-up. We'll send out this presentation, recording, et cetera. We'll schedule a follow-up next week. Unfortunately, it's pretty slammed, but we'll make it happen in the week after. We'll look at calendars and we'll get it going as soon as we can. So again, thank you.
Thank you, Micah.
Appreciate it.